Show is hosted by Tony Gapperstone and Christina Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hey, everybody. It's showtime. Welcome to the 160th episode of the Brave Maker Show. My name is Tony Gapperstone. I am one of the co-hosts. I'm a filmmaker, actor, living and breathing in Redwood City, California. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I am a Caucasian man wearing some glasses today, my brown hair, my bright yellow shirt, in my very moody Brave Maker studio today. And you can find me on the socials at Tony Gapperstone, or my website is tonygap.com. And I'm always, by the way, I have a carpal tunnel situation going on, so don't mind this little robotic looking hand claw. I don't know what's happening, but it's definitely infringing on my ability to be a screenwriter these days. But with no further ado, let me bring in my co-host, friend, collaborator, producer, actor extraordinaire, the infamous Christina Ray Jackson.
Thank you so much, Tony. It looks like too many late nights banging out those scripts. Gotta take it easy with that wrist. Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Ray Jackson, coming to you from Dublin, California. My pronouns are he, she, they. I am queer. You could find me at ChristinaJackson.com or on Instagram at Christina Ray Jackson. And I'm rocking some cosplay today. I'm doing the Batman meets black, and that simply means I'm wearing a fro. I got some hair pick earrings. If you want to see more cosplay, head over to my IG and check it out.
Batman meets black. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. And we're excited today to welcome in one of our former guests who's been on twice.
Yes.
He's now a part of the Brave Maker team, and he is going to be a somewhat regular, let's say monthly co-host, special co-host, we'll call him, on the Brave Maker Show, Mr. Jason Fong. Welcome, Jason.
Welcome, Jason.
Hey, what's happening? Jason Fong here, aka Jason Your Face. You can find me on most socials with the handle at Jason Your Face. He, him, his are my pronouns. I am based in West Sacramento, and I am a Chinese American male with a bald head, bald by choice. Yeah, goatee, charcoal t-shirt, wearing a charcoal t-shirt right now, and I have a blue background behind me. That's sort of my go-to that I use for my self-tape auditions, because I am also an actor and filmmaker, and yeah, that's me.
Jason, you have a nice head dome. You always have. I've known you for some time, and it's very iconic, I must say.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very lucky, and I have my parents to thank for that. I have there's nothing. Yeah, I have nothing to do with it. All the credit goes to them. So.
It's very shapely. Well, welcome to the Brave Maker Show and the Brave Maker team. So great to have you. He's been hanging out with us for the past 6-8 months, figuring out where he's going to land, and he's going to be with us. And I think he's going to add a lot to the conversation. In fact, he is responsible for the conversation we're going to have today. But before we bring in our special guest, I'll ask both of you, what's one thing you did this week to move forward toward your creative goals? We'll start with you, Christina.
I did a roll through. I went over to San Francisco and did a roll through at Sour Cherry Comics, where I hope to be having the first reading for my comic Golden Ray out any day now. I actually have the proof in my hands, Tony. I'm so excited. So that's how I'm braving my way. Yeah, one step at a time. And yeah, what about you, Tony?
Well, I am still trying to raise money, and I have been getting, I have one person I'm a little just weirdly nervous because it's second or third removed, but someone said, here's a contact, call them. They could donate and give. And I put it on my calendar to call today, and I have not done it yet. So I have to call this person. So keep me accountable after we're finished. I have to do it because my day ends at 5:30 today, Pacific time. So I'm going to make that phone call today and see where it goes. So that's how I'm braving my way, asking for money. Jason, what about you?
That's awesome. Wow. Nothing super specific, but I will say that I've been writing my goals out and trying to get back into the habit of writing them out, because I kind of fell off. I have a day planner, but then, like, we all have phones, smartphones and whatnot. And I've become more addicted to the digital, but I find that things happen better if I do the longhand, and I need to go back to that. So I'm going back to that. That's what I'm doing. And I'm going to be sending you some positive vibes, Tony, because that's an important phone call that you have coming up. So
thank you.
Giving you support.
My carpal tunnel hand receives those good vibes right into the middle of the palm.
There it is.
All right. Well, if you are watching live or on the replay, we want to know how you are braving your way. You're always welcome to comment on all of our social media. In fact, follow us on the socials at bravemaker.org. Let us know what's going on. Jason, who is our special guest today, and why is this special guest important and connected to you? Give us a little brief intro here.
Awesome. This is Jean Franzblau will be joining us, and I met her earlier this year. She is an intimacy coordinator, and I met her while doing some work on a feature film, and she was awesome to meet, and she walked me through everything. It was a first time for me because it's not every day I get an offer to be in a intimate scene for several reasons we may or may not get into today.
We just talked about how great your dome looked. You're a very sexy bald head. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you
you deserve
much.
it. You deserve it.
Thank you. I will receive that energy. Yeah, and she was just phenomenal. I just loved how she walked me through everything and made me feel super comfortable before we got on set, and then also during the filming on set. So that was very crucial, and it really made my life easier, and made the scene go so much smoother for her presence.
With that amazing introduction, let's welcome everybody. Jean Franzblau. Welcome, Jean.
Welcome, Jean.
Hello. So nice to be here. Thank you for that introduction, Jason. Whoa, that was an all-night shoot.
It was.
We met in the middle of the night.
Middle of the night.
But what a pleasure to work with you. And it's really rare that I get a chance to be with an actor and possibly talk about the work, because so much of my work is very private and confidential.
Intimate.
I have to be a
very
secret keeper.
intimate. Yeah.
Right. So thank you for having me.
Well, Jean, before we jump in, for all of our listeners and watchers, why don't you do an introduction? You can say your pronouns and a visual description for our potential visually impaired audience.
Terrific. I'm Jean Franzblau, a Hollywood intimacy coordinator on Instagram. And I am a white woman of Eastern European Jewish descent. I'm wearing long gray hair, which I'm super proud of, and have a new teal stripe, which I'm thinking about keeping. Right? I'm psyched about. I feel like I have found the look for the rest of my life. This might change colors over time. Mm-hmm. I'm wearing a teal scarf in celebration of just trying to look professional today, and a navy sleeveless top. And behind me is my white bookshelf with some multicolored books and a pride flag. And round glasses that might make one think of Harry Potter.
Yes, they are giving me Harry Potter vibes. I like it.
I like it. I like the new hair. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we appreciate the professionalism. Tony and I show up in t-shirts and costumes. So thank you for that.
Bringing it.
Yeah. So let's jump in. Jean, you have a very fascinating job. I don't think we've had any guests like you before. So please share with us your origin story. Where were you born and raised, and how has your journey uniquely prepared you for the work you're doing today?
Thank you. I was born in Hollywood, Florida, and actually in Fort Lauderdale, and then raised nearby in Hollywood, Florida, which has always been my from Hollywood to Hollywood kind of story. And I've always been interested in entertainment ever since I saw a gymnast get a perfect 10 in the 1974 Olympics. I'm 51 years old, which I could have mentioned in my earlier share. And besides being a competitive, sporty kid, I started taking performing arts classes young. I was a very lucky, privileged kid in that I was able to have an interest and then be able to have that nourished at a young age. Started performing live at 7. So there's a part of me that back in the day, this is what we called it. I haven't heard this word in a long time, but it's called a ham. This idea of being that performer. I do enjoy that. Like whenever I'm doing a selfie, I'm usually making really silly faces, and so that's a part of my personality is a little bit whimsical and silly. But we live in a tough environment. And so what's part of my journey is that I found sexuality to be really interesting. And yet, like in terms of sex ed, in terms of like community education, just knowing what was going on in that realm, was very meh. We live in a culture that has some shame around sexuality. It's a harsh environment in which to develop and grow. For me, as a female identified human. So part of my journey is curiosity, and then also harm, in terms of, frankly, I feel like the culture is harmful to the developing and blossoming for all of us. But as I evolved, through the years, at a certain point, I didn't even value myself beyond what I looked like and beyond the sexuality. So I had to get some real support in my 20s around the subject of sexuality and self-esteem. And so as that sort of progressed through, frankly, what things really broke and cracked for me in a heart-opening way, but in a painful way, is when I had a partner, which was a long-term love relationship, where I was sexually assaulted. And I didn't even know I didn't even know it was that. It was years later before I even had those words for it. But what I did know is that my body turned against that human. And then I finally followed suit, realizing something was wrong in the relationship, and then moved myself out. It was not as easy as 2 sentences. I was in that relationship much longer than was best for me. And so it's that point that I became committed to healing, committed to my own curiosity, and to understanding more about the realm of sexuality. And so, it became this, all of this work around sexuality began with the personal journey. So what happened about 11 or 12 years ago is I started to write a solo show. I was learning so much that I couldn't stop writing. I brought on board for 2 years a story consultant to work with me to develop it into a solo show, and performed it in 10 cities. And it is a super vulnerable work. It's very vulnerable. And I had to make a decision. Was I going to put my name on that or use a pseudonym, which is what my mom suggested? And I decided it was a personal story and it deserved that transparency. I don't have sexual shame, or at least I'm working towards that. And so I wanted to be transparent. And so what that turned into is me going out in the world saying, I'm doing the show, even though I'm a corporate trainer, even though I'm in the corporate world, I'm going to take that risk. And was I fired by one job? I was. Wow. But I got to do my show. And one time I had this really intuitive moment, because I was like, am I going to be financially bankrupting myself and be unhireable? Stuff like that. If I tell my truth, stuff that I'm interested in, stuff that I'm passionate about. And I got this intuitive hit, and it was like a delivery of a message. And the message was, it's going to be better than okay. And this is before I had even heard of intimacy coordination. This is before I knew that by sharing my truth, I would become attracting cool people like each of you. And that by being brave, that there's a whole world of us who are brave. And so these can be my people. These can be the people that hire me and want me around to be of support, etc. Yeah. So I hope
oh my goodness. Jean, wow. I'm giving you a sitting ovation. Okay. This is a beautiful story that you've just shared. I think we are all sexual wellness enthusiasts, but you are a crusader. And I am so just thrilled that you shared the details of that story and how you ended up sitting here talking to us today.
It's going to be better than okay. I love that.
I woke up this morning. I should get that tattooed, like here.
Yeah.
This morning I woke up, and the wise thought that sometimes joins me in the morning was, talk about the show this morning.
Yeah.
Like, talk about that. Because it's a way of integrating myself, to talk about the different parts and pieces and parts that make this person that you see.
We love a good one-woman show.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're hosting one on Friday night with our community here, and so we'd definitely be interested. Last week, we had Zach Sandler, Broadway musician, who's doing his own one-man show. So let's tour. Let's do these things. We're for that.
Well, guess what, y'all? You all kindly just showed my Instagram page. I have decided, as of about a month ago, that I'm going to put together a staged reading of the show. Beautiful. Not me as the performer, I'm going to direct the stage reading, but with 3 actors to see what they do with it.
That's exciting.
I know.
That
I
is
found
exciting.
the actress and I'm like, oh, first of all, she did the audition and she did some scenes in it. And the sexual assault scene, I wept in the right way. I'm like, she got it. And then in other scenes, which are quite funny, I was LOLing for real. And then I sent a note to my friend who recommended this actress. And I said, I think she's going to be a better me than me. So I'm really excited. It's next week.
Congrats, snaps.
That's
That's
Very
exciting.
Yeah.
Well, keep us in the loop. If you're inviting audience, we have LA people that we can, promote with that for you. So we'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely. It's on Eventbrite Los Angeles. And may I say the name of the show?
Yes, of course.
Because frankly, the name of the show is quite revealing. It's called Coming Out Kinky.
Okay.
I like
Okay.
Coming out
All right,
kinky
very good.
in LA. Yeah. We'll post the information on our stuff and hopefully you'll get some more audience members for this. So this is important work that you're doing. I like that you talk about leading with curiosity. So I want to turn it over to Jason and let's hear a little bit. So Jason, you get cast in this film. You have some intimate scenes. Whatever you're comfortable talking about, let's hear what that was like for you and then the interaction you had with Gene. And then Gene, however we can go and kind of check, because we're all learning. I'm a director who's going to be directing some sex scenes. I have directed a sex scene. I've been in a sex scene. I've never worked with an intimacy coordinator before. I felt pretty safe for the most part. But yeah, there's awkwardness, and I would love to have some more tools to work and do this better. So Jason, I turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I can reveal about it. I don't want to upset production or whatnot, so I won't give away any plot details. But definitely as a first timer, it was so good to have Gene on board because we had a one-on-one call over Zoom, as I recall, and it was before we even got on set, and it was a nice 30-minute, like very granular. We got into the weeds about, okay, what do you feel comfortable doing? What do you not feel comfortable doing? This is what she had spoken to, the directors and the producers or the director and the producers and kind of gave me the background and said, this is what to expect. So, how do you feel about that? And et cetera. And we just walked through every single thing. And I thought, that made me feel so much more comfortable going in because I read the script and I was like, this is wow. Okay. This is pretty revealing, and yeah, there's a little, I am revealed. There's a piece of me out there, and
a piece of you, like a penis of you.
Well, no, thankfully that was not it. Okay.
We just want to clarify pieces. Okay.
There are contracts. And so I put in my little contract. Hey, this piece of me, no, that's off limits.
Okay. Boundaries.
So caboose, if you will. And so my caboose is in there. And yeah, so but we went down, how is that going to work? How does the other actor feel, and how does she want to be touched? Where can she be touched? That sort of thing. So yeah, that was what we went through. And then on set, Gene was always there to keep an eye on how everything was going. So and that was again another relief to me because I wanted to make sure I wasn't being offensive. I wanted to make sure I was still hitting the beats, getting the blocking. And Gene made sure to keep certain people out of the room. We had a very, what do they call that when you limit the
closed set? Closed
set. There we go. So only the most necessary people were there. And we did what we needed to do when we shot the scene, and throughout different takes, little adjustments were made here and there, and Gene communicated with the director to see if there were any changes that were needed, or if we were doing anything that was not comfortable. Does that kind of cover it, Gene? Did I kind of recap what we did?
Yeah, you had mentioned the contract and how there was a full caboose part of it.
Yes.
Joking aside, you did such a great job to describe it. And for the filmmakers watching and the filmmakers right here in the room, the recommendation is that you bring your intimacy coordinator on early in the process. And they'll sign an NDA and they'll keep your secrets safe, because it's really ideal for us to read the whole project and then the scene specifically that we're working on. Chances are we might see other scenes where it might be useful to have us there, where the director might not have thought of it. There's a great amount of vulnerability in this scene you might want to consider. And yeah, we begin with that conversation with the creatives about what they're hoping for. Sometimes the scene will be they make out or they rump. What does it mean exactly in your mind's eye? And I ask really specific questions, like, what position do you imagine they might be in when you say action? Is it a simulated sex scene? Or, are we just seeing some body parts and music, or are we seeing like movement? And this is important for the actors to know what was hoped for. And that's what I bring to them every actor in the scene. Here's the vision. Where are your boundaries with that? What are you comfortable with? And sometimes that conversation includes their representatives, their legal, their manager, their agent. So there's a lot of folks to talk about. And the new union rules, which came out in 2020, add a lot more protections for us actors, or for actors. And I think you'll appreciate those protections. For example, in that document called a nudity rider, sometimes called a simulated sex rider, it must be drafted 48 hours before shooting. And that means that no longer will an actor show up to set and have somebody say, "Oh, you're nude today," which is the kind of shenanigans that were going on so often with actors, that they were surprised by requests of nudity and they sounded a lot like demands. I just heard a a terrible story just on Monday, where an actress shared the pressure she was put on. She was handed a contract which looked very scary, had never heard of it before. It said things she had not yet agreed to. And when she said, "I need to just take a look at it," production called her agent called her, said, "What's going on here? You're causing a problem." Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the bullshit that's gone down. And so just having, some people consider us like a sex cop. I hope you could tell from what I shared earlier that I am a sex positive professional, that I want there to be consent and safety, so that the actors can do their best work and the work goes efficiently. When somebody is not frightened out of their own, like not dissociating in order to do their job.
Yeah.
Or surprised on set, etc. So it actually is more efficient, and it protects the production to have somebody like that.
I hear you talking about preparation, which is one of the keys. There's so many keys to filmmaking, but it happens anywhere. I have seen a lot in indie filmmaking that there's so much chaos. There's so many things happening. So many plates are juggling. It feels like there's never any time, even remove a sex scene for any of the other things in the story. And so what I love, what I hear you saying is, and I'm thinking of myself both as an actor and as a director, if you want to have a safe set and you want to honor your actors and your talent and your crew, it's really paramount to be able to communicate about these things. The 48-hour rule, I think, is fantastic. I think, having those 2 days to prepare. But what do you like? How could an actor? Let's talk about the actors here. What could the actors do? For instance, they get cast in a role, they know it's coming. Maybe they don't even get these contracts, because I've done a lot of things where it's like we're blessed if we get a deal memo, like a one line in an email that says, some sort of contract. We're in some sort of contractual relationship. But what are some things you can do? Because I think there's also people who are afraid of losing their job to speak up. They want this job so bad, and so what would you advocate? Could an actor hire you if production says that we can't afford it? But what would speak to the actors? Like, how can they advocate if there is no intimacy coordinator being offered? Sure.
A couple ideas for actors. One is take a good, strong look at that audition notice to see if there's any nudity mentioned, or if you get a sense from reading the script, or you get a sense from the storyline, if you're a love interest, or if you're in any scene that might have, some spice to it, or sexual assault or something like sexual violence to it, to ask the questions early on. If you're concerned that there might be nudity asked of you, don't even put yourself in the situation to have the rug pulled under you. Simply ask the questions in the beginning of casting, of the production. That could be a great idea. Another is to begin getting clear about what your boundaries are, and they can change. When I spoke with Jason, chances are, Jason, I said something like, what we're discussing today in this Zoom call is not a promise of what you will do. It is a sense of what you think you might be comfortable with, and we'll see on the day. Because you might find that somebody in the crew, an actor might find that somebody on the crew is giving them the creeps. You might find that your scene partner, who you've just met and you're about to do a simulated sex scene, there's something off there in your sense of comfort and safety with that individual. You would have no way, you cannot, how can we possibly promise we'll feel comfortable with something when there are so many important elements that come into play all at once? So I want you to know something that's, this is a challenge for production, but I'll just share it with you. In terms of what the union guidelines are, you can have a change of heart at any time. As soon as some footage is shot, if it's, let's say, above the waist nudity, and as soon as some footage is shot, the production has the right to have a double come in and double the actor if they have a change of heart. And in that way, actors and productions, these different unions are coming together to try to find a way to get the needs of the storytelling needs met, and to get the day complete while honoring the boundaries of actors who are doing incredibly sensitive and vulnerable work. Yeah, another thing is to request modesty garments.
Yeah, talk about those little things that we get to wear.
Yeah, like let's say there was a scene where a person who has breasts is willing to show side boob, but not nipples. Well, then perhaps we would take a nipple cover and trim it so it's small. And then there's an adhesive on it and it sticks right on there. And that means that no matter what shot is captured, they cannot capture the nipple is covered. And also it'll look weird if they, glaze over the body part. And I won't say weird. Some people have surgeries where there is no nipple, so pardon that word. But it'll look different than maybe was planned, or might capture the audience's attention and have them thinking about that rather than what's going on in the scene. Anyway, another garment is called very common. It's called a strapless Fong. Imagine two people in bed and there are sheets and there's simulated sex, and you see a hip, a beautiful hip of a body, and it looks like, wow, that person is naked. They're actually not fully naked. They're wearing underwear that is, imagine a G-string, if you will. And now the side parts have disappeared. They've been trimmed off. How the heck does it stick? And the answer is with adhesive on the front and threaded up the behind in the back. And therefore the actor feels like they have a little bit of coverage, a little bit of space between themselves and their scene partner. And also there are barriers. So we were just talking about like the modesty of the look of a person, but also we can insert something into those garments where there's even a little more space. And that's for the modesty, or simply the sense like, look, it's not porn, although there are intimacy specialists working in porn, helping those sets be safer. This is simulated. And so let's use movie magic to make things look awesome, but make the actors feel as comfortable and confident as possible. And these are some of the behind the scenes techniques.
Quick question about that. Should, as a director, I be using that word simulated sex? We're going to film a simulated sex scene.
I recommend that you use simulated a lot.
That's really good to know.
It's because some actors, maybe they're newer, actually might not know how it's all done because it looks so real when we watch it on TV, on Netflix, etc. But we use the word simulated all the time as a reminder. The one place where it's like, is it simulated, is with kissing. And yet there are plenty of ways to make a kiss look like it's a tongue kiss, but it's not a tongue kiss. So it's simulating the passion, right? But Very often, lips are touching. Very often, a hand is on a body part. But in terms of intercourse, not happening. In terms of self-pleasure, it's all fake. There might be a hand off camera and then the movement that looks like, oh, that person is touching themselves. Cool. They're not touching themselves. Even a person who has a penis, if they're doing a simulated masturbation scene, will be generally is touching a prosthetic to make it real, etc., off screen. Or anyway, my point is we have all kinds of really wacky tricks to make it seem as real as possible while also honoring the fact that it's not porn, it's simulated.
Movie magic.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, it's bringing back those flashbacks of that modesty garment.
I had a flashback as well. I didn't want to say it out loud, but I was like, oh, I'm having a memory.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a little bit more on that, just because I want to share my experience. Definitely different when you first do it, but then like as soon as you get into the scene, if you've done your homework as an actor, you get very used to it, and you're just you forget you have it on. But it's nice that it's on. That's for sure. It's nice that it's there. Yeah.
This question is for Jason and Jean. Both of you are actors, and Jean has special intimacy professional coordinator background. What is your advice, both of you? And we'll go Jason first. What is your advice for actors to bring to life the most vivid, realistic, safe, lovemaking scenes in films once you land that role?
Wow. I do think that, do your homework as far as the acting is concerned, right? You break down your script, you do all the actor stuff, right?
Right.
But I think you really got to work hand in hand with someone like Jean, whoever the intimacy coordinator is, and sort of like kind of coordinate that with her.
You defer to her.
I would to an extent, I would again, I think a lot of it does come from the preparation, but definitely a lot of communication with your IC, the director, of course, too. Yeah, I mean, you do kind of have to, depending on how, conservative you might be, you do kind of have to throw a few things out the window. You kind of have to, just like, hey, I'm going to go for it. This is what the character and the story requires. And I had to do a little bit of that, sort of like just, had to just take some of that out and just forget who I was and just say, I'm this person in this moment. So, and again, working hand in hand with the director and your IC helps ease that and makes that performance easier. Jean, go ahead.
Yeah, I have some recommendations for how to create safety with your scene partner or scene partners, because that will help the actor feel confident that they're not going to accidentally cross boundaries, because that can take a percentage of your brain with worry.
Right.
Or another way of it, a whole percentage of our brain could be worried that our own boundaries are going to be crossed. And so some suggestions would be, once you meet your scene partner, to say, perhaps you can say, the intimacy coordinator, let me know your boundaries, and or if there is no intimacy coordinator, hey, I'd love to hear what what would help you feel safe and confident. Here are places on my body I definitely don't want to be touched, and would you share with me where you want to make sure I steer clear of? Do you have any ticklish places I should be aware of? Is there any? Do you have any? So in other words, asking really detailed questions, and take your time with that. I mean, I just rattled a bunch of them off, but perhaps the best technique I could recommend is called the ask and wait method. When in rehearsal, if you don't have a rapport yet with your scene partner, even so, if it's an intimate rehearsal, this is a special scene that takes special care. Let's say the director says, okay, so I would have you lying on top of each other with so-and-so on their back, and I'm the actor. I would say, is it okay if I lie on top of you right now? And wait. And is this comfortable for you? And wait. And then tell them what's comfortable for you. Like, really slow it down. And that will build trust with your scene partner, so that ideally you'll both be able to just go fully in. Another thing I want you to consider is, I'd like for you to consider these scenes as if it was a stunt, like a knife fight.
Oh.
Okay. So the choreography is not going to be improvisational.
Right.
right? Back in the day, there have been directors who, without knowing how to talk about it, it's awkward for them too. They might say, like make love for 10, make love and we'll tell you when to stop. And action.
Wow.
And a minute goes by and
Yeah.
the stress with the actors as they're like, oh, the stress of that. Instead, to ask for and advocate for choreography and blocking.
That's a good one.
If a director is wanting some improvisation, then to please slow it down to say, then I need to know a bunch of answers from my scene partner. With regards to kissing, how long can a kiss be? Are you comfortable with tongue kissing? Actually, I realize I'm not, so we're not doing tongue kissing. Is it okay? Is there anywhere on this arm or this arm that you're a no to? Is holding you like in a passionate way that's a little bit grabby okay, or is that a sensitive? Know those boundaries, and this is like really high technique for actors who also want to be lost in the moment. This is what's required of film and TV. We need, there's a camera, there's a mark, there is all kinds of stuff we have to keep aware of to get the shot. And so this is part of your work.
Jean, who negotiates the choreography? Would that be the IC?
Let me tell you. Oh man, is that fun. So when I worked with Jason, the director was completely collaborative and together as a team.
Exciting.
We co-created it. I will just say I felt like I was able to make, in fact, I had an idea of where the scene would begin, what the position would be, where it would end. Like I had a sense of it and everyone rolled with it. So we are trained for that. You can tell it's fun. We're trained for that, but not all directors want it. Okay. So frankly, some of my hard lessons is to shut my mouth. That my creative ideas sometimes are, I need to make sure everything's safe and then hang the F back. Hang the F back. In the circumstance where the creative is not wanted. So,
well, Jean, I think some actors don't want it either because there's a big news thing the past few weeks. One of the Game of Thrones actors pushed back, right? And then that was all big.
So let's talk about that. So the pushback was, it's so difficult for me. Oh boy, I was just starting to. Let me start that over. I'm kind of mad.
Yeah.
It's so difficult for me to act and be in the moment when there are boundaries and consent is being respected of other people. It's really tough to do that kind of work. It's sort of like saying, I don't know. So I'm grateful that heavy hitters like Emma Thompson, who had an intimacy coordinator on her amazing film, Good Luck, Leo Grand, said, you will notice that the people who pushed back and said, hold your horses, dear colleague, were people with vulvas.
Right.
Okay. I this is where my advocacy or just my feminism and stuff, I have to take a breath, but it makes me furious.
Yeah.
I kind of want to jump in there because I know that he had said, and I'm just paraphrasing, but something about it being an obstacle to spontaneity. And I feel like, well, as actors or filmmakers, whatever you're acting, you are always working under constraints. There is a script. Those are not your words. So what's wrong with, having constraints and boundaries around a simulated sex scene, right?
It is so much bullshit.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, if I could just take a breath, we all want to do good work. And so any actor doing a scene that's sexy wants it to be smoldering if it's meant to be smoldering, or scary if it's meant to be scary. I get that. And so if that performer is worried that they'll be less amazing, that the final product will be less amazing, I can understand why that's a worry. But I'm imagining that person is having a hard time putting themselves in the shoes of their scene partners. And that's concerning to me.
Speaking of good work, Jean, Would you mind sharing maybe one of your favorite scenes with us where you feel like the actors and the directors, everyone came together in a beautiful way and we got a really good scene out of it?
Do you mean as an intimacy coordinator when I work?
Yeah. Oh, no, go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm really proud that I got to work in the unscripted space.
Ooh.
Okay.
So I worked on a Netflix show called Sex, Love, and Goop, which was the second season of Goop Lab. And what they did, yeah, there it is. So what they did is they brought in real people and they brought in experts on lots of issues around relating and sexuality. And these real couples received support and guidance in how to overcome their painful problems. So I was brought on board to make sure that these real people made choices that were right for them as they navigated the unfamiliar territory of having their sex lives being shared publicly and having great vulnerable moments also being shared for perpetuity. That's a lot to hold, and it can be exciting, like, oh, it's a Netflix show, and oh my God, the production is telling me they want me to do such and such. The production wanted to the production literally brought me in to interrupt the power, their own power. Talk about fabulous.
That is fabulous. I cannot wait to check that out. That's
Oh
awesome.
man, I teared up. I cried watching it, and I already knew what was going to happen. There's a lot of healing that happens, as you'll see if you watch that show. It's some deep, deep work.
Wonderful.
Well, this has been so cool. We want to encourage you here, episode 160 on the Brave Maker podcast, to go follow Jean Franzblau at her Instagram handle, which is at Hollywood Intimacy Coordinator. You're going to find out all sorts of cool things about the things that she's doing, including her staged reading called Coming Out Kinky. You also, Jean, got to be a part of the Netflix film that's premiering in Venice, Blonde, about Marilyn Monroe, and a bunch of other cool shows that you will recognize if you go to her Instagram page. So check that out. And if people need to hire you, they can find you there as well, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. You can go to jeanfranzblau.com or my website, Hollywood Intimacy Coordinator. You'll see all my contact information there. Thanks so much for uplifting this work.
Heck yeah, we need to learn. I know I will now use the word simulated sex scenes in regards to the things I am directing. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I could talk more about this because I have stories of things. Well, let's just take a few more minutes real quick. Share some things you learned through failure. Because we talk on this show a lot sometimes about things we're doing right and but we learn best by failure. I definitely could identify with being in a scene in theater. I didn't even think about this, where nobody told us I'm in Romeo and Juliet and I'm dating somebody, and then I get a tongue in the middle of a show, and I was not prepared, and that threw me off. Like, wow, I could have really benefited from this conversation, but that was 25 years ago. So what things have you learned through failure as you've been in this job in the creative performing arts industry?
I had a really embarrassing failure where, and I'm trying to think, like, what did I learn? Okay. As you can tell, I'm enthusiastic about things I'm enthusiastic about. And I can get eager and thrilled and want to do a good job. And I'm so excited that I get to be on a show, right? Like, and one time I was covering for a colleague, which means they were entrusting me to make them look good and, just like seamlessly get in there and support and then get on out while that colleague came back. And I fucked it up. Meaning then the initial conversation, I was so eager. I had prepared. I wanted to show them things. I was just providing too much value, shall we say? I made several mistakes. I didn't read the room, and it was a Zoom room. Mm-hmm. I didn't read the room. There was awkwardness. I was sharing things that wasn't appropriate for the people that was there. I wanted to talk about the intimacy, and it wasn't an appropriate group. Mm-hmm. And so I learned a really important thing, not to share images of things and ideas. Can you sort of tell how bad this went? Yeah. I'm glad to see you smile, Tony, because it's a source of shame for me. It's good that, for me to just give you a sense of it. But I was so deeply embarrassed. I thought I was going to get fired by my agent. I thought that my colleagues were all whispering about what a fool I was. I mean, a lot of like, I went so deep in my head. And so I learned some things. I covered a production, a Netflix feature this Monday. And it was this chance to kind of do a do-over. And I just am like, sweetheart, just being nice to myself. Less is more. You know, less is more at every phase of getting onto this set. Everyone's fine. All is well. Just be a quiet, supportive presence. Cool your jets. And it was so smooth. It was so smooth. I was supposed to be there at 7, was there early, you know, all good. Was gone by 9:30. It was like butter.
Well, I think we all can identify with being full of shame, saying something stupid, or I also hear you saying almost like sometimes I try too hard, you know, because we
tried
so
too hard. I was
desperately,
fired.
yeah, we desperately want to do a good job, and it's like we're just that's like the desperation, like we reek of desperation, and we have to learn sometimes the hard way. But so thank you for sharing. And I think in regards to sexuality, sometimes there's awkwardness, you know, from actors and cast and crew on set, and sometimes we make jokes I think they can be inappropriate. The more we get comfortable having these conversations and talking about them and realizing there is a preparedness and a choreography and a plan, the more comfortable we could be to live into those callings. So thank you for this. I hope you can come back again and share more. It would be good because I think this is a necessary conversation. I'm learning, and I hope this provided a lot of learning for you out there watching and listening. So thank you to Jean. Don't go away because we're going to do one of our favorite parts of our show, and that's called Brave Faves.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
So my brave fave is go to the movies. I went to the theater and watched Nope, and I watched Beast, and it was like we were the only ones there. Like we had rented out the whole place, which was luxurious. But I'm noticing that not a lot of people are going out to the theaters. We're still at home streaming, which I get it. It's become like a beautiful addiction. But definitely I say get out, get some fresh air, go back to the movies. And Nope is so much fun. I'm not going to give any spoilers other than to say Jordan Peele did his thing. It's hilarious. It's engaging. It's just entertaining. It's great. And Beast, there's no words. Idris is amazing. The action's amazing. What they're able to do with what's the word, animatronics and CG nowadays is breathtaking, and I think you'll really enjoy both. So those are my brave faves.
Awesome.
Nice. Go to the movies. We second that. Jason, what you got?
I watched Prey on Hulu. And you can't see that in the theaters. It should have gotten a theatrical release. It is the prequel, it is the prequel to the Predator franchise.
What?
Yeah, and that was pretty amazing. They went back to the roots of the original. I feel like they pared it down, went simple with it, and they represent the Comanche tribe there. There you go. You see it right there. Naru is the lead character, and she faces down the Predator in what is it, like the 1700s? I'm not sure exactly when, but yeah, and it was a little rough on the CGI. I will admit the bear could have looked a little bit better. They could have gotten Leonardo,
The Revenant.
Yeah, DiCaprio's bear instead, but. But overall, this was a really fun take on the Predator franchise after seeing several sequels that didn't quite live up to the Predator mythos and hype. But this was a pleasant surprise. So,
and that actress is getting a ton of buzzy reviews, so that's really cool. An all indigenous cast, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Amber Midthunder.
What about you?
I recommend this book, Bling, It's called Creating Consent Culture by my colleagues Marsha Pasinski and also Erica Scott. And it answers the question, why isn't consent taught in school? You can teach it in school. This is for educators. And frankly, it's a 3-hour workshop that it describes for 10 folks 10 years old and older. And frankly, it's amazing for adults as well. But it's specifically has careful language and options of how to talk about things, consent and boundaries and stuff for youngins.
Nice.
Beautiful.
So good. Well, my Brave Fave is in the same vein of boundaries. I'm going to, and I usually always recommend shows and films, so I'm kind of diverting from my usual faves to tell you to follow Nedra Glover Tawwab if you're not following her. She is an author, best-selling author. Her book is all about boundaries, set boundaries, and she's got these really great things she puts out through her Instagram stories and her Instagram posts. If you can't afford counseling, which I think everybody needs to go to counseling at least once in their life, that's just my thing, then you can go see Nedra, because she's just giving these really great nuggets about how powerful our language is, about how we view ourselves and others, how we know we can't change other people, we can only focus on ourselves, and when to cut toxic relationships off, how to recognize microaggressions. It's just, she's awesome. And I listened to her on a few podcasts. Nedra Glover Tawwab. You can find her on the Insta. Thank you, everybody, for watching and being a part of our Brave Maker community. We're so proud to do this every week, 160 episodes, and we want to keep growing. If you're not following us on YouTube, please do. You either watch this on YouTube or Facebook, or you listen to it on our podcast on all of our channels. Share it with somebody who you think might benefit from this conversation. Share it with an actor friend right now. Share it with a director friend right now, because Jean's work needs to get out there, and we want to keep growing this. Jason is going to be with us every month, and Christine and I would love to connect with you and help you in your journey. We do this because obviously I was learning things on this show today, and we want you to learn. So make sure you're following us at bravemaker.org on all the socials. If you are somebody who shops on Amazon, did you know that we are on Amazon as one of their nonprofit affiliates? Because we are a nonprofit. You can give money back every time you shop if you go to smile.amazon.com and choose us as your preferred nonprofit. And every time you buy something on Amazon, if you use the link smile.amazon.com, you can kick back right to Brave Maker to support the things that we're doing, like our one-woman show on Friday night, September 2nd. We are hosting Teresa Donahoe, who is a local Bay Area actor. She's going to be doing her show called Born Again in Berkeley. Tickets are $10 online, or $20 at the door, and 50% goes right back to Teresa, and then the rest comes right back into Brave Maker's pot to keep doing the work that we're doing. Priscilla Lamb, who was on our show a few weeks ago, and I are going to be facilitating conversation. There's going to be snacks and concessions, all that fun stuff. So, Christina, who do we got to thank, and who do we have coming on next week?
We have JJ Soria, phenomenal actor, joining us next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on YouTube. And we definitely need to thank our amazing producer out of Austin, Texas, Amy Cohen, our social media editor, Carrie Alley, as well as our podcast editor, Brennell Amos. And last but not least, I know everyone's been waiting. We are going to show the scene that Jason was talking about. We have the uncensored version. Tony, cue that
Oh
up.
my God. You're so naughty.
What a
You're so
jokester.
naughty.
What a
Don't have
jokester.
it, but check
She was
out
sitting on
Jason
that
Your
one.
Face for more info on that. Acting gig. Congratulations again, Jason. And thank you so much, Jean.
Thank you so much, Jean. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
My pleasure. Fun.
All right.
We had fun.
Intimacy, yes, Hollywood Intimacy Coordinator and Jason Your Face. Go follow. And we'll see you back here next week. Thanks, everybody. Brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Stay with us, Jean and Jason. We'll take a picture.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.